Hi, I'm Daisy Mack and welcome into today's episode of Spiritual Mixtape. I'm always excited to have you here, but I also have a ton of love and compassion in my heart for you if today's episode is resonating with you. It is about how we reframe loss to find gain. It's part of the process. It's probably a middle to an end of a journey. But it's hard. And it's hard for lots of reasons. It's a hard process to learn because it's about growing up. I wouldn't even say it's about maturing. It's about, dealing with life's harder lessons. And this is very poignant for me because I really am teaching or giving you value from a hard lesson that I've learned personally. So what we're doing today is it's 5 steps, 5 journal prompts, 5 thought starters, 5 places for contemplation. And they each lead on from each other. And by the 5th step, by the 5th journal prompt, you should have a framework for how you can understand the loss that was in front of you and see the ways in which the energy has changed from pure loss to gain. So let's jump in to these 5 prompts. If you want to write them down, I'll make sure that they're dropped into the show notes too, but let's jump in. So the first one, how can this loss serve me? How can this loss serve me? Now, when I lost my dad, it was New Year's Eve 2019, and New Year's Eve 2020, what a weird year. So going into 2021 should have been the anniversary of my dad's death. Well, it was the anniversary of my dad's death, but amazingly, this rescue dog, not this particular one, this is Moana. If you're watching the podcast rather than listening to it, my dog Moana is here front and center. But we have another dog called Magnus, and he arrived on the first anniversary of my father's passing. And when I first went through this exercise, when I was going through grief counseling myself, this was my step one, when I was like, how can this loss serve me? And I wrote down, I think my dad loved me so much that he traveled through time, that his love traveled through time and bought me this amazing new dog. Because if you do know me, I'm absolutely any animal. So how can this loss serve me? The loss of my dad. I was like, well, I gained a dog. And my dad would have found that funny. So we're okay. So that was the first one. Now, the second prompt. Where does it point my work, personal growth, or impact? So in that first year of having Magnus, I was beginning to teach yoga, and I'd been in the music industry for a really long time, and I left to spend time with my dad before he passed, and I thought I'd go back to work, but then 2020 happened, and when you specialize in touring, that whole industry shut down, so there was no place to go back to. But the amazing thing about Magnus, this rescue dog, is when I was trying to teach yoga online, I was really scared. Magnus was star of the show. He would go up to the front of the camera when I was teaching on Zoom. He'd be doing the downward dog with me. He is a chunky Labrador. He is as lacks grace, just like his mum, just like me. And he just brought such a light-hearted energy. And I honestly think if I hadn't have taught yoga, if I hadn't have taken that first step, I wouldn't be here with you right now, living my purpose. Like, helping people is really living my purpose. So how does it point you towards your work, your personal growth, or your impact? Do you feel ready for the third one? What is the silver lining? So what is the silver lining? So for me, when I first went through this as well, so I did this in early 2021, about a year after Dad passed, and my silver lining was that I would never need to go back to a job that made me feel burnt out, that didn't use my energy in a way that built me up. So let's go on to point 4, and then we'll do 5 and we'll recap. Instead of asking, why me, ask, what's next? So for me, I was like, could I really work for myself? Could I find enough clients? Would people care? Would people want me to teach? Instead of why me, what's next? And I love this 5th point because it comes off the back of the other 4, of course, but it brings everything back to you and gets you into action. What is one small action that you could take immediately to nurture yourself? So given everything that you've just read, what is one small action that you can take to nurture yourself and nurture what you've just been through? So let's recap the 5. When we're looking to reframe loss as gain, you can work through these 5 journal prompts. How can this loss serve me? How does this point to my work, my personal growth, or my impact? What's the silver lining? Instead of why me, what's next? And what is one small step I can take to nurture myself? This is about pouring into you. Grief, to grieve is actually an honor because it means that you must have had something that you loved that mattered to you greatly and deeply. So much so that you need space and time to grieve it. However, when we don't process that grief, when we let it fester, or when we let it become a festering, the honoring of the love becomes a lower vibration. And that lower vibration is a drain on your resources, on your energy. So you need to look for ways to feel grateful and thankful for what you had. And then you need to cast your net and begin to create a future from what you've learned. There is always a gain in the loss. There is always opportunity in the challenge. If you're listening to this around the holidays, holidays really are divisive. You know, I lost my dad over the holiday period, and it took a while to be able to feel grateful for having loved and lost my dad, and not just pure sorrow and abandonment to not have him here still. And sometimes even with the holidays, sometimes I can feel both. I can still feel like a big sense of loss, and that's okay. I just take myself back through an exercise like this, or I just take myself through like, what is the one thing I can feel grateful for today? What is something I'm excited about tomorrow? And I just try and anchor into a higher register of energy than just the pure grief. My dad would never want me to feel like that. Always want me to feel like I'm about to get a new dog, you know, especially around the holidays. So I really wish for you that if you're dealing with loss, if you're at a period of your life where it's feeling super challenging, I hope that you know that it will pass. All things do, and that you will come out the other side. You will be tougher and more resilient. I bet you'll even look sexier because, you know, life experience looks hot on people. And I just wish you all the best.